Hello, happy Monday. The last video that I did, we discussed my great-grandmother. Today, we'll talk about my grandmother, my mom's mom. Going back to that program I was talking about before that the History Committee did at St. Paul Church, we featured members who had 50 years or more. My grandmother, aka Grandma Dot, is one of the members who's been a member for over 50 years, and we feature her in the book. Here, you see her picture. In the book, as I said, we asked them a couple of questions. We asked them about their involvement, who was the most influential to them, and their most memorable event. For my grandmother, she was a part of the cathedral choir. Her parents were most influential to her, and her most memorable event were the fundraising efforts by the cathedral choir to raise money for the church. In the interview I did with my grandmother, she gives her personal accounts on specific things that happened when she was growing up. Don't take offense to any of it. It's just her experience.
After he married Mama, they used to live on 5th Court in my uncle's house. After they married, they moved to 1957 Northwest 5th Avenue. From 1947 to 50th Street, 54, anyway. And Daddy was looking for numbers during that time. So the house that we originally were in was the 3-bedroom. They bought it for $300 because that's the number he called. Okay, and we lived there for a long time, and after a while, they decided to paint the house white and blue. And that's why I did that, because we had that blue house over there. Then after we were sanctioned, in other words, we made this, what's the name of the place? Near Carroll. What's the name of this city?
Little Haiti?
Yeah, they just the blacks wanted the whites.
Overtown.
The whites wanted to keep White Town white. And then they saw a lot of strangers coming in, Haitians and Cubans, and so they decided they didn't want that. In other words, they didn't want to integrate. So they moved us over here. The 2nd Avenue was already there. So in other words, to keep the blacks from shopping in White Town, we moved to Little Haiti. I happened to, my friends drive me around one day, and I said, oh, that house is for sale. Mom said, for sale? I said, yeah. She said, I don't see no house for sale. She didn't see too good either. So we got out the car, and sure enough, there's a little sign about that bed. And we got out. Mom was scared, and we met a couple. The woman, she's an old lady. She must have been 80. She's about 80 years old, and the old man was crippled. And they showed us around the house. And when we got to the back of the house, she said, "There's another house back there." And that's how I found that house.
Okay.
So Daddy wasn't sure of it. I guess I wasn't the smartest person in the world. So he said, I think his heart must have thumped when he thought he could get some money to help him pay for the house. So anyway, initially I put the money down. I had a little money during that time. And I put a deposit on it. And then he brought Mr. Smith down to see it. Mr. Smith, businessman, he knew a lot about buying houses and stuff. So he came in and he said, "Oh man, I think that's a pretty good face you got there." So he says, "Oh well, okay." So he came back and I guess he started showing it to his friends. And how he got that little stroke, don't ask me.
Okay.
I was with him. He had been one of the boys, I guess. So he went down, he rolled him down and he said, "Oh, that's a good spot to have a store." Daddy always wanted to stick a store because his brother had a bar. The bar was called the Red Bar.
What was his brother's name?
Ellis.
Ellis Howell?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Ellis would sell beer. And the boys, sometimes the police would ride by here, Fifth Avenue, and they see him gambling in the back. When they would see him gambling, they would break it up. In other words, they were afraid of being arrested.
Mm-hmm.
So they would run away and leave the money right there.
Mm.
And the cops would take it. And they couldn't report it because you know how cruel cops were during that time.
Mm-hmm.
All were niggers. So anytime I guess they were short of change and wanted to take some money for their wives or women, they would take all the black folk money, the little money they would gamble about. They had dice. And sometimes the people around would wonder, "Police coming?" And we always knew where Daddy was. Because Daddy was somewhere. Some day tells somebody told a joke and it was a good joke. And Daddy would do that, but I guess I got that laughing from.
Mm.
And we'd run home because we were scared of the cop. And we, during elementary school, we went to...
Which elementary school did you go to?
I went to Dunbar Elementary.
Okay.
From Dunbar, Dunbar was like this school, but Dunbar was at the end of the street.
Uh-huh.
So we went from there to Dunbar. I hated the school. And our policeman was white, of course.
Mm.
And his name was Mr. Mack. Mr. Mack would help us across the street. And we loved Mr. Mack. He didn't never bother us. We went across the street. And they never honor him or nothing like that, but anyway, he knew our whereabouts of where we lived. So one day, Barbara got in a fight. Barbara was a fighter boy. Barbara got in a fight. And at that time, Aunt Ann, Ellis, her husband Ellis had died. So she had a boyfriend, he was a policeman. And as Carol exited the school, so
Barbara
said something to her, huh?
As I'm Barbara.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she got in a fight. And Mr. Ellis brought Barbara home. Of course.
Mr. Ellis or Mr. Mack?
Huh?
Mr. Mack brought her home.
No, Ellis. I mean, Mr.
Mack, the police officer.
Yeah, the police officer. We brought her home from school and we teased her. Ha, the police brought you home. Ha. So Daddy told her about it behind her. So after Daddy would always watch them. Nobody had a teacher come to the house but Barbara. Barbara would fight. But she wouldn't beat me Francis. See, I was older. So, Mama left me one day to she said, "I got to go downtown." And the buses were segregated at that night time. So I got on the bus, scared to death, on the bus. And so a white lady got on, and this bus driver was telling us we had to move in the back. One man said, "If you don't take this bus down to the street, you won't know it." They ready to fight. I said, "Oh Lord, I'm gonna be able to fight in the bus. Lord Jesus, please." But anyway, that bus driver kept on going downtown where he's supposed to go. So I was scared after that. I didn't want to get on the bus no more. But anyway, the downtown was nothing for me to walk because I had to do the 9 like you. I love to walk. And I would walk from Fifth Avenue to Flagler Street. No big thing. The parades, we used to walk to it, you know, rather than push and squeeze on the bus and niggas in the back, you know, that thing. So I went downtown many times. So one time I went with my girlfriend named Penny.
Who?
Penny.
What's her first name?
Penney.
Okay.
And she and I went shopping downtown. And as we were standing at the counter, this lady was buying something. I don't know what she was buying. Anyway, she left, you know, little wallet she used to have with the plastic wallet.
Mm-hmm.
She left about $40 in there. And I looked at her, and Ruby looked at me. I said, I took it and put it in my pocket. So Ruby was living in a house down the street,
mm-hmm.
and she thought we had money because she didn't have nothing. Ruby was adopted by her.
Ruby or Penny?
Her name was Penny.
Okay.
And Penny was scared of her auntie. So when I went home and told Mama we found the pocketbook. I had, but Miss Penny wanted Mama to give up the money for Ruby. Ruby was adopted. So we had a little falling out about that. Anyway, we went on and on. She was red, hard Indian.
Mm-hmm.
And we went on and on, went to high school and all together. Finally, she got married because she got pregnant by Mr. Johnson. And Mitch, in other words, wanted a baby. So they went and got married. But she never did like it. But anyway, I guess she put it all on me. But anyway, they got married. Miss Eunice never really accepted her. And Ruby got spoiled up there. His sister was going to Bethune.
Mm-hmm.
And she would go on a skirt, you know, go to visit Nassau quite often.
Mm-hmm.
And she would come back with this Nassau man whom she later married.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, Governor, I have a question. So, can you talk about how you felt, or like, you know, like, how, were you?
I wasn't the smartest girl in this class. No.
No, I'm saying like as far as with the racism and with all that. How did you feel about that?
I knew where my place was.
Mm-hmm.
I was black.
Mm-hmm.
And in high school, if you weren't light skinned.
So there's two things we have. We have internal racism within the own community because of the skin complexion, and we have external racism because of Mm-hmm. So
this is my grandmother receiving her bachelor's degree from Morris Brown College. Hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned. There's more to come.